What's up, guys? Professor Bill, Comic Book University. What's up? I don't know how many people are out there waiting right now. I haven't gotten any notification of all the people that are sitting there watching in the stream and whatnot. It's late. It's late. It's a little after midnight. A bunch of people are probably like, "You said midnight. You said midnight." Sorry, almost 20 minutes after midnight. Got a little busy. The game ran over time. It happens. Anyway, so you guys are gonna love it though when that game goes live. Whoo! So we got three Dawn of X books this week. We got Marauders issue number 8. We've got issue number 7 of the New Mutants, and we've got Wolverine issue number 1. Hey, get into focus. There you go. How you doing? Issue number 1 of Wolverine. Also, don't forget that your comic book sucks. Your comic book store sucks if they don't have Wolverine through the years. Is this necessary? Not even remotely, but still, it's one of those things, man. It's one of those things. So this was a cool little book. You get to check it out. They got the Empire thing on the back instead of the Breaking Benjamin thing. But they just talk a little bit about Wolverine and whatnot. A whole bunch of good things in there. The people who are doing the book and whatnot. A really old picture of Benjamin Percy without the beard, Adam Kubert and whatnot. Got all these things, a bunch of things that are happening in the story, give you an idea what's up, and then just give you a bunch of really cool pictures of the covers and whatnot as we've seen them throughout the ages, throughout the years. Important covers that have Wolverine on them in some way, shape, or form or another. And then a bunch of the new books that are coming out also. So Cable number 1, Hellions, X Factor, and Children of the Atom. And also a bunch of other books like trade paperbacks and whatnot that are kind of important for Wolverine also. Again, is this the most important book in the world? Not even close. But, it's a free freaking book. And if your comic book store doesn't have it, it's like, dude, why are you even a comic book store? Saying. In reality, I'm mostly being facetious. They still have to pay for shipping. So they don't pay for the actual book, but they are going to be paying for the shipping. So there's that. Anyhow, so let's get talking about these books in and of themselves and just getting full spoilers. And I'm going to save Wolverine for last because I know, I get it. You guys are in love with the book. And a bunch of people are going to show up and be like, hey, oh no, he already did Wolverine. So I apologize. Next issue of Captain Marvel is going to be pretty big. So keep that in mind. Issue number 15 dropped this week. I didn't even read it yet, which is a shame, but just been busy. Anyway, so those two dumbass X-Men who wind up getting blown up and sent out into space, Magic goes and yoink, grabs them and brings them in. And you get a bunch of a real quick ending to everything that was going on. The Death Squad, they get taken care of quick. Now, the whole thing is narrated by Robert DaCosta, Sunspot, and this is a freaking hysterical moment here. It's like, oh, look, she comes up, she kisses him, she punches him, and she kisses him. She comes right out and she's like, what? That didn't happen. That's not the way it happened. It's like, okay, fine. It was actually 2 punches and 1 kiss, but, just elaborating a little bit. Now, I didn't see anything that said, no, that's not the way it happened either. So I'm going to assume she gave him 1 kiss and 2 punches. So it's like, walk up and it's like, why'd you get caught? Bow. Okay, you're kind of hot. But still, bow. That's what I'm imagining. Because that seems a lot like what Deathbird would do anyway. And listen, am I the only one? Am I the only one who's looking at this and saying, I would really like to see these two together? Show of hands. Show of hands. Anybody else want to see these two getting together? Could this possibly be the next Jean and Scott? The next Emma and Scott? The next... Damn, Scott's been with a lot of honeys. What's up with that? Anyway, I for one, I totally vote that we have this. So the whole book gets a little bit weird, especially in the beginning. But the book gets weird. Like, look at this huge cast of characters here. But Moonstar actually comes up and she starts having a conversation, and they're both looking dead at the camera. Both of them, for crying out loud, and talking about, he's giving over here. He's giving spoilers for what happens in the next issue. Actually, for the end of the whole arc, and she's like, "Stop it! You're spoiling the whole book." It's like, wait, what are you talking about? We had these issues, and there's the fourth wall breaking reminder that this is in fact a comic book. And oh, look over here, Ed Brisson is writing some of the stories that are happening on Earth, and Hickman's actually written stories where they're in space. I'm saying this was a whole lot of fun. All right, it's not what I'm used to. I'm not used to seeing these characters breaking the fourth wall. I'm okay with it though. I am totally okay with it. His last name is Summers. That's why. It makes sense, Tiago. Welcome to the channel as well. What's up, Viclops? Scott, what's going on? Scott Fitzgerald. Martin P is here, and a bunch of other people who are not saying anything. That's fine. So Jonathan Hickman is the writer, Rod Reese on art, VC's Travis Lanham on letters, Tom Mueller doing the design. Reese does the cover, and Nick Russell does the production. The head of X and the writer is Jonathan Hickman. New Mutants. This issue is called Spoilers. Okay, that works. Anyway, Chandra is here, which is a whole lot of fun. Chandra, if you're looking at this and saying, who is this person? You guys probably should have considered checking out Kelly Thompson's book, the Mr. and Mrs. X, that featured Rogue and Gambit. And these two were actually hanging out, and they found a bunch of things, including a giant space egg that actually wound up hatching this magnificent power child that was able to do all sorts of cool things. Now, you actually got to read that comic book to really understand who she is. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in this book, man. This whole book, just from beginning to end, is freaking hysterical. Lady Deathstrike leads the team to go in and point out that one of these. It's funny. She's like, "What? How dare they? How dare they plan an assassination attempt on me? I'm going to kill someone." Safer goes and points out, "Yeah, it looks like they were planning on killing some of the Imperial Guard also." So Smasher's like, "What? How dare they? I'm totally going to kill somebody." Like, to see these two agree on anything is perfect, especially in this vein. You see that Deathbird, Lady Deathbird, she's got her spear over here, and she's getting ready to poke some people. She goes and she throws it at okay, what the heck is her name here? I know her name. They're gonna give her name. Okay, I got this. It's fairly important in here. Oracle. So Oracle over here, she's all like, she's the one who actually planned on this. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the way that this ending happened. Hey, what's going on, Paula? How you doing? She's evil. Yeah, but she's evil and she's hot, and we're guys. We're dumb. So people are gonna flirt with the hot bird lady. So anyway, what do you call it? Yeah, it turns out that Oracle was actually doing some bad things, and she goes and she throws her spear over here. I'm trying to do this in reverse. Throws her spear at her, try and kill her. But you ain't gonna get past. I mean, like, who in the heck thought that she was gonna get past freaking Gladiator? So he turns around, he throws it right back. And Sunspot, he comes over, he grabs that spear. He's like, "What? I'm faster than you. I'm stronger than you. And I hope you can bluff better than him too, because Gladiator will straight up whoop your hiney hole, dude. That is just messed up." Wow. So, Marcus, what's up? Marcus, welcome to the channel. How's the weather there? It's not as cold as it is here, that's for sure. Hey, Suan, what's going on, Suan? So here's a really funny thing that happens. This thing, the white pages, fight. There's a game that they have on here. You need one or two six-sided dice, and you can play this game. The problem is, you look at the rules and you realize, like, I was getting ready to reach my dice and everything, and you realize this ain't a real game. This is not a real game, especially when you get to the end. You can only win by yelling out "Death Strike!" Like, come on, man, or Deathbird, excuse me, Deathbird. Like, come on, man. Like, don't throw down the game and it turns out that it's unwinnable, it's unplayable. Like, that was just ridiculous. A couple of cool things happened here at this point. Roberto and Sam Guthrie, they're actually going to hang out together and just stay with each other. And just like, boom, this is where, we're going to stay in space for a while. And it's funny the way that it ended, because he's all like, "Listen, you can't stay with me because Smasher doesn't want you staying here. But, feel free to get a place somewhere around." Here's where it gets, excuse me, a little bit fantastical, silly, crazy, which I'm totally okay with in this case. He transfers credits. Now, I know Roberto's rich, but come on, man. You're going to transfer credits from Earth. They get it translated to, a different currency. You're going to convert it into a different currency, like a space currency. Come on now. Anyway, so that's what he does. And he winds up actually buying the building that Smasher lives in, the Smasher and Cannonball lives in. By doing that, now he can say, one, I'm going to raise your rent because you weren't going to let me live here. Two, I'm going to crash with you. He can live anywhere in the building he wants, but he wants to crash. It's like, technically, it's not your home anymore. It's mine. I own your home, so I'm going to crash in here with you. I'm good with the couch. Hickman's doing some silly stuff, and I got to say, I 100% approve. I haven't ever read Hickman doing some funny stuff like this before. This was good. I dug on this. After that, only one more really major thing happens, and it's actually the only thing that I'm hoping is actually going to count, besides Wolfsbane showing up and licking every little orb that she comes across. What is it with her showing up and licking? It's Comic Book University After Dark. So she shows up and she licks every orb that she comes across. What's up with that, man? What's up with that? Happens twice in this book. It's really freaking weird. Anyway, she's she's a lunatic in this. So here's the page where something interesting happens. Gladiator is pleased that Cyclops' people happen to be in space and goes and rescues, rescues the operation and helps everybody out. First off, the princess, she is the new regent, the queen. She says, Oracle, your punishment for trying to have these people assassinated is that you now have to advise me in certain things, and so does Deathbird. So you two are both going to be my closest advisors. Do you both accept this? And they both say yes. So that's going to be interesting. Kind of hoping or that Deathbird just kind of gives a little eh. So what do you call it? That's one thing. But Cyclops hanging out with Gladiator. Now these two do have a very good working relationship. Probably nobody in the Marvel Universe has a better working relationship with Gladiator than Cyclops, which is important. Even the other big guys who actually go up against him physically, he looks at them as more of a challenge than anything else. So he's hanging out with this guy, and they're having a conversation. And it's like, listen, if there's anything I can do to help you out because of what you did for me, you just let me know. And he's like, nah, I can't ask you anything. He's like, no. A debt's a debt. You let me know. I'll help you out. He's like, nah, well, actually, there is one thing. And it's interesting the way that he pulled that off. Like, he really just thought of this? Nah, not knowing Hickman. If this was almost anybody else, I'd be like, this was just him being silly, right? Nah, not with Hickman. He says, there is one little thing. We obviously have a gateway here in Sam and Izzy's place, their house, that leads home. But I would love it if we could place one on that island that looks like it's floating in space. He says, Chandelure. I'm not one for aesthetics, but I'm not blind to beauty. An excellent choice. Consider it done. Now, is this just because they want a vacation spot? I mean, if you can go to Sam and Izzy's place, you can go pretty much anywhere you want. Plus, their dad has, what do you call it? Cyclops' dad has one on the Starjammer ship. They don't really need three out that far in space, right? Yet, maybe Cyclops is just doing his preparation thing. Two is not feeling good. Oh, and I'm out of water too. Lovely. That drop will have to help. Anyway, so this is interesting. 2 is 1, 1 is none, right? Maybe that's what he's trying to do. Can't always trust my dad, and maybe the plant that's in Cannonball's place won't go so good. But in this particular case, what if I have one directly on the beauty center, and that's just what he thinks about? He just thinks, oh, it's just because it's beautiful. I'd like to take vacations here once in a while. Or maybe it's something for strategy. He's trying to do this strategically. I mean, that is the reason why he chose his home on the moon, a good view of Earth. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if he's up there on the moon and he's looking down, and all of a sudden Galactus comes up and starts eating the planet. Be like, I'm glad I'm up here. I'm going to go live in Shi'ar space now. Whatevs. But that's interesting. Cyclops usually doesn't do anything just for the sake of conversation. You know what I'm saying? Even when he's having fun, it's strategical. There's a reason why he's doing it. So personally, I think he's got a plan. And I can't wait to see what that's going to be. The trick is, it's Hickman. We could wind up finding out a year or 3 years later what he's actually going to do with it. But there's that. Anyway, so let's get started. No, not yet. Not yet. Let's talk about the Marauders first. So the Marauders, issue number 8. This was a particularly interesting comic book because you just get what seems like it's going to be a regular old beautiful story with, Emma hanging out and chilling with it, and Christian is over there, the dad murderer that she is, the patricide. And they're on Mars and they're hanging out, and the kids of the villages, they're all hanging out and are like, hey, what's up? Check out all these cool plants that we got going on, right? Mind you, the Hellfire Club, and this is going to be important later on for the Wolverine comic book also. The Hellfire Club is very distinguished in what they do. The black and the white houses, all right, so the Black King, the White Queen, they're responsible for the main transportation of these drugs to the places that the other countries that recognize Krakoa as being a sovereign nation. Hey, you recognize our independence, you give us a little diplomatic immunity here and there, and you allow the mutants that live in your land to come to Krakoa if they want to. And then we will give you these 3 drugs, the ones that help you for Alzheimer's, the ones that help you against physical, well, basically the mental drug, the physical drug, and the live an extra 5 years drug. So you go ahead and hook us up, and we'll go ahead and hook you up. Now, where's the red come involved? Where's Kitty Pryde's red house come from? This is because there are going to be some places where they don't work out so well, where these places like Russia, and Segovia, I think, and definitely Madripoor, they're like, yeah, we're not interested in dealing with you. So no, you cannot have your mutants, and no, we do not want your stupid drugs, and no, we will not recognize your sovereignty on Krakoa. These particular people, they get the government overthrow technique. So Kitty, moves in on her Marauders ship, and she starts doing some trades with the individuals there, the black market retailers, the cartels and whatnot, and says, hey, you go ahead and you get me some of those mutants, and I'm going to give you some of these drugs. What do you say, pal? And they say, sure. And then they get to sell these drugs for any price that they want. Free trade, capitalism, free market, right? And then they wind up getting so much money, they could eventually take over the government, overthrow the government if they so choose, and, form some kind of a coup. That happens sometimes, and this is going to be a pretty big deal. We also do remember that Kitty Pryde was murdered a couple issues ago by Sebastian Shaw. And in this issue, we get the confirmation of that kill. It's really sad because we see Kitty's body floating, and Bishop, mind you, who snuck aboard the ship, he goes and he looks around. He's like, oh, crap. And he starts actually, and this is really sad, because he starts screaming a telepathic call to anybody who will listen. And the only person who does hear him is Emma. And she's off planet. And the only reason why she even heard is probably because the 5 cuckoos are all over the place. And they're kind of acting as a beacon, as an antenna towards her. So, and Viclops, a very good point. Shaw really does make a good heel. He makes a good bad guy in this particular case. Like, it's ridiculous how bad he is. I love him as a bad guy. It's not that I can root for him because he's vicious and he's evil, but man, I'm in love with this story right now. So here's something interesting. Forge, mind you, let's explain Forge's power. Forge is naturally really smart and he can build a whole bunch of cool things. But there's something else that's very special about Forge. His mutant power, a lot of people don't get this one because it is a weird one. Forge's mutant power is the ability to create something that he doesn't fully understand yet, and to do it extremely quickly. Now, these projects usually don't last very long, but now he's got a functioning prototype to build the machine properly later if he wants. But his mutant power is to, even if I don't fully understand this, I somehow intuitively get the mechanics of this, and I can build this device, electronic, mechanical, or otherwise. And now we realize biological as well. He makes what's called automatons. Automaton can be a robot, and these look like robots, but they also look like they're made of vines. So he's taking this material of Krakoa, and he's actually making slave labor automatons that help him out with physical manual labor. That's pretty sick. So another little trick up Forge's sleeves. Good to know. Good to know. I found that to be exceedingly interesting. Anyway, so we get to see that Kitty Pryde is indeed confirmed to kill, dead. More on that in a hot minute. But anyway, she is considered to be dead in here, and this has got to go down as one of the saddest Emma Frost scenes ever, because she is a tragic character in the sense that she's always so in control of herself, but we know that she doesn't come from a great life, so to speak. And every so often, something really bad happens to her. There's the focus. To me, my Marauders. That's all she can think of to psychically say. To me, my Marauders, instead of to me, my X-Men. That was a really sad moment. That was a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching moment. And man, this slightly kills me a little bit inside. Now we get to the credits. Jerry Dugan is on writing, Stefano Caselli on art, Edgar Delgado doing the colors. Letters are by VC's Corey Petit. Tom Mueller does the design. Russell Dauterman and Matthew Wilson does the cover. Production is by Nick Russell, head of X's Jonathan Hickman. And Furious Anger is the name of this issue. And yeah, that would just about explain it. Anyway, so Bishop does he does recover the body of Kitty. Over here, you get to see the vines that were tying her legs together. He saves one of those vines. He puts it inside of his, you can see right over here, he puts it inside of his pocket so that he can try and see what's going on later. So he is, of course, going to figure out that this came from something special and possibly link this back to Shaw. Either way, I'm pretty sure that once Emma figures it out, she's going to rip him apart. Anyway, so one of the people actually winds up noticing Bishop there, and it's like, uh-oh, big deal. But Emma's like, listen, we're already there. You just go and you get safe, battened down someplace else on the ship. It's like, what do you mean get safe? What does that mean? Well, there's a whole bunch of these bad guys out here, these soldiers, whatever the hell they are, probably paid mercenaries. And they start to get really cold. It starts to get a little chilly. It starts to get so hot that some of them actually wind up experiencing frostbite really quickly. Now, this one's particularly weird. This guy actually starts to get super hot. And my original explanation in the Marauders issue number 8 review, non-spoiler, I say that because Bobby does have the ability to control thermals. He usually just absorbs them all or makes them scatter so that it starts to get colder, right? In this particular case, it looked like he's actually just making him a lot hotter. Somebody went and mentioned frostbite. Yeah, you actually get hot before you get cold. That's not actually the way that works. The area can actually feel warm to the touch to somebody else, but no, you might get a little bit warm, but not hot like this. Not hot like this. So like this guy's actually crying and whatnot. I don't see any sweat. So I'm not exactly sure what Duggan was doing with this, what he was telling the artist to do. Either way, I'm literally just going to look at that one panel as whatever. Anyway, so for these guys, they wind up getting so cold, and Iceman comes walking in, and he looks like a demon, man. He looks a little bit like Rom the Space Knight, saying with his eyes like that. That was wicked. Digging on that. Hypothermia, yeah, maybe it's like a form of hypothermia, but whatever it is, yeah. So anyway, you start to see people, they're trying to like pull on the trigger, but then their fingers break off because of the cold, the massive amounts of frostbite. Anyway, these guys are all sorts of getting jacked up. And Iceman walks up and he's just like, okay, so listen, I'm about to kill all of you guys. And they're like, you can see them. They're just like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. And let me put this down so you guys can actually hear me better. I'm sorry, I forgot that was actually up that far. Anyway, they're like, can't take it anymore. So anyway, yeah, they so Bishop shows up. He's like, hey, Iceman, stop. Saying this isn't overused. Like, please go and check out the review or at least read the comic book for Daredevil. It's a really good comic book, but Chip Zdarsky overuses the stuttering thing that some readers do. Here, it's Bishop does it once. I think that's the only time that actually happens in the entire comic book. It's good. I dig it. Anyhow, so Iceman is really ticked off. And he just walks up and he just starts breaking people's arms off. Like he's just like, oh yeah, you're frozen. Here, let me freeze you a little bit more. Breaks off their arm. He's disarming them. At one point, he just pulls a total G moment, and he's like, here we go. Frostbite never quite heals. When you're cold, you will carry this pain
Let it be a constant reminder never to take up arms against us. However, if you feel you have been mistreated today, then you know where I live. Come to Krakoa, biatch. Like he was just straight up, man. He was killing it. He was killing me in this one. Um, Dark Knight Nation, man, one of the most depressing freaking guys in comic books in the world, man. Good to see you again, bud. But no, I'm sorry. I don't see anything snooze fest whatsoever in these comic books. 100% agree to disagree. Anyway, so these guys, man, Emma's having another sad moment, but in this case, Aurora shows up. Aurora shows up and she's mad right now. She's mad because she's got to blame somebody. You got to think about what the stages of grief are. You know what I'm saying? And Aurora just kind of went straight to the pissed off moment. And she just shows up and she's just like, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" Rah, rah, rah. And she's like, you know, Emma's trying to defend herself and she's like, "Listen, I put out a call for everybody. Isn't that whatever?" It's like, "You were responsible for her." It's like, "I was responsible for her?" Well, hey, you know, I did put some of the world's most powerful mutants there with her. You know, she was supposed to be on the island. Okay, you know she doesn't want to be on that island. It's depressing for her, right? She wants to be out and doing her own thing. And she's just like, well, listen, you know, I assigned you and Iceman and all these powerful mutants to be hanging out with her to keep her safe. I could ask where you were. She's about to say something like, but I'm not going to because that would be rude. Storm ain't having it. Storm straight up jack slaps her. She gets ready to go for a second one and then she stops. But she just jack slaps, just like bam! Like, wow, almost takes her head off. Woo, that was something else, man. That was something else. Anyway, at one point, you actually do get to see she goes and she summons a lightning bolt in the sky and whatnot. Doesn't look like it actually hits the ground because Emma would have been jacked if she did. But anyway, she's just pissed off and she needs to let out a little anger. Anyhow, so what do you call it? They wind up hugging, and that's actually a really beautiful moment because she's like, you know, if you want, I could turn to my diamond form and you could smack me around a little bit more if you want. So just like that's such an Emma thing to say. So I dug on that. Shaw is over here, and this is where things start to get really funked up. Shaw is over here laughing about it. Shinobi Shaw is behind it also, and he's laughing about it. And they're like, oh, yeah, so check it out. We got all these baddies running around, and ho, hey, we decided we're going to get our Black Knight. So you got the Black King, you got the Black, what would he be called again? What is Shinobi Shaw? What's his rank again? The Bishop. So he's the Black Bishop. Now they got to have their Black Knight, right? But the Black Knight is actually two people. It's these two mother fat heads. Oh man, the freaking Von Strucker twins. Actually, are they twins? I think they're twins. Yeah, they're twins. Oh my god, for crying out loud. So anyway, yeah. Yeah, this is just freaking messed up. So Fenris is there. Now, if you guys aren't overly familiar with Fenris, oh, thank you, Dragon Master, for pointing that out. Bishop. Fenris has two different. Who is that? Who are they anyway? Okay, easy. Go and take a look at 10 things about Fenris explained in a minute on Comic Book University. So actually look up Fenris, Comic Book University, 10 things about, or explained in a minute, whatever, and you'll actually find like a 2.5 minute video where I explain these characters. Another way to figure out these characters just a little tiny bit is that on the Gifted TV series, the X-Men, TV series is called Gifted. The two twins that were there, the brother and sister who, when they held hands, they would like blow up the world or whatever. They were supposed to be based on the Fenris characters. But anyway, these are the Von Strucker twins. Their father is Baron Von Strucker. Yeah, he had mutant children. Go figure. So they're extremely freaking dangerous. Like one does a concussion blast that blows people away. The other one does a disintegration ray. Yeah, disintegrators, like Nimrod. And they can both fly. And so their powers can only really be used if they're holding each other's hands. And they're also kind of incestuously dirty. So there's nothing positive about them. It's so bad that, like, the Red Diamond thing where Sinister's talking, he straight up owns them in this. He's just like, yeah, nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Okay, I don't like some dirty people. Okay, it's actually the Von Struckers, Fenris. They're evil, evil. So I dug on that. I genuinely dug on that. Like when Mr. Sinister himself is like, "Nah, you suck." I'm down with that. Anyway, we do get to see that confirmation that Lockheed is actually still alive. He actually burps, he breathes some fire and whatnot, so he's back. Maybe this will be the way that Kitty gets to come back. I don't know, but we did see the spoiler for one of the covers. Actually, I wonder if they showed it in the back of this. They did not, but they could have. There's going to be a cover coming up where they actually show that they're going to have a funeral for Kitty Pryde. Really freaking ultra sad, but is what it is. Ah, man, I'm crushed by this, dude. I'm crushed by this. If they're actually killing Kitty Pryde, this is a big deal. And this is, of course, by Verenda, Verendi. So it's like the Boy Scout symbol, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, always prepared, Verendi. So the Marauders book is actually kind of crucial to read at this point. It's been my favorite comic book for a while now, but like my favorite of the Dawn of X books. I absolutely love the political intrigue in there. And guess where a lot of that's being continued? Right here in Wolverine. So if you're enjoying this Wolverine book, I promise you'll enjoy it more if you're also reading the Marauders. I'm just saying, not saying anything, I'm just saying. So consider checking it out. She isn't going to be permadead because uh, she is the Fantastic Four X-Men. Oh yeah, she is, but I think that was before all that good stuff. They're actually killing Kate Pryde. It's a possibility. I'm hoping not. Yeah, could she use her? There's a really good question right there. See, this is why I like the idea that you guys are, what do you call it, reading the comic books. I'm doing this a little bit later instead of before you guys get the chance to read them. Fleur Delacour, I think it is from the Harry Potter books. Anyways, do you think Emma can use her telepathy on Lockheed to find out what happened to Kate? I don't know because Lockheed doesn't have regular forms of communication. If she had like a form of animal communication, like Aquaman would definitely be able to know this stuff. You know what I'm saying? But as far as Emma, I don't know if her telepathy will work in that particular regard. But what I do know is that if Lockheed shows up anywhere near Sebastian Shaw, he's just going to be like, "You mother fathead," and like start breathing fire on him. So, and I think everybody's going to figure it out at that point. Maybe at some point, Emma will just read Sebastian Shaw's mind and be like, "Ah, you son of a gun," saying like mind probe him or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see. Um, Alonzo wanted Kitty to die after X-Men Gold, issue number 30, but not like this. Nah, man, you can't kill somebody because they backed out of a marriage. Come on now. So we've got this awesome book. Now, I mentioned in the individual review, this is issue number 1, and it's double size. It's $7.99 because it's the price of 2 comic books because you're genuinely getting 2 full comic books in this. There are 2 completely independent stories in this. We start off with Wolverine waking up. He got blowed up or something like that. Anyway, he's with his X-Force team, and it looks like he's killed them. The one bit of art in this whole comic book that I'm not overly fond of is Wolverine's face on this. Everything else in this book by both artists and all the color artists and everything, absolutely love in this book. That's the one scene, think about that, one scene in a genuinely double-sized issue that I didn't like that much. Dude, this is a beautiful book. The whole entire thing is, the Von Struckers. Corey, I think you're really in the past on this one. I'm sorry. No, you're not wrong, Chillmonger. Lockheed is an Agent of Sword-ish. What's her name? What's the Agent of Sword's name? Brand. Abigail Brand, the green-haired chick who was in charge of Sword. Now Captain Marvel was, and then Alpha Flight, and then it doesn't matter anymore because it's been disbanded because they blew the damn thing up. Anyway, Immortal Hulk, that'll happen. So anyway, she was actually put. I think this was in Joss Whedon's run. Lockheed was actually Abigail Brand's spy on the X-Men because of all the crazy space shenanigans they always get into. No, you did not imagine that story. Good one. Good call out. I just want to point out, Jean's dead in this, or so it seems, but she's still hot. And I'm just like, dude, But you can see like his claw marks all over all of these guys. They are jacked up. Wolverine's got blood on his claws. He's like, dude, what the frick is going on? And he sees some footprints going off in the distance, and it's some really freaky stuff. So this issue, issue number 1, it's this first part is called The Flower Cartel. I'll get into that in a hot minute. Benjamin Percy is the writer, Adam Kubert on art, Frank Martin doing the color art, VC's Corey Petit on letters, Tom Mueller doing the design, Adam Kubert and Frank Martin does the cover. Whole bunch of people doing the variant cover. I ain't getting into all that. Nick Russell still doing the production. Head of X is still Jonathan Hickman, so this is an official Dawn of X book. And yeah, let's move on with The Flower Cartel, the first book in here. And you get a whole bunch of these images that we'd seen before. I'm also really wondering what the hell this is. It's February now, man. Tell me what's under the stupid curtain. Geez, Marvel made the unveiling. But a lot of these images that we'd actually already seen in Dawn of X, or not Dawn of X, House of X issue number 1, both in this first part and in the second story, there's a bunch of images that we'd seen, but there were no words to them, so we didn't know what was going on, you know? Anyhow, so what have you now? They yeah, itchy. My nose is itchy. Um, basically all this stuff, and we get to see actually what was said during this time. Wolverine's playing hide and seek with the kids because it's actually a form of training for them, and it's all sorts of cool like that. He goes off and he starts drinking some cheap whiskey with Kate Pride. Now, something interesting happened that I was kind of hoping that we would see. This is a very interesting scene right here. Look at what happens right here. She says that she learned a trick while she was away. She doesn't like the taste of the drink, so this trick allows her to imbibe the alcohol without and get drunk without actually having to taste it. Look at what she does. She phases her hand through the glass and somehow absorbs the drink. Huh. Drink, glass, drink inside, does this, seems to allow the liquid to go inside of her. She doesn't actually have to taste the nasty taste, and she can get drunk that way. Interesting. Now, either this is just a silly little thing, or maybe this could be something that would allow her to actually survive later on, right? Really weird. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. But it is what it is. Anyway, I'm just wondering why they would put that in there, because it's the weirdest freaking thing, unless it did have something to do with her being able to come back. Anyway, we get to meet Jeff Bannister. He's this goofy guy, CIA agent, wearing the Hawaiian clothes and whatnot. Now, if you remember in the Marauders book, there is this CIA agent, all right? And we don't get to see him, but we read about him in the white pages there. We didn't read about it in this issue, but every so often there'll be something there about the CIA agent trying to find out all sorts of stuff about the island and the Marauders and what's going on with all this stuff, and trying to help them at some point. This comic book right here is set in the past a little bit. So maybe we're actually going to see that this is, in fact, that CIA agent. I'm hoping. I genuinely am, because it's actually kind of cool. Anyway, he's got a really tragic story. His daughter's really messed up. He's trying to help her out, but, nothing seems to be helping. The only thing that could and will apparently help is the drugs that the X-Men send to everybody. The problem is a lot of those shipments are being stolen. So now we got to find out who's stealing these shipments of drugs. And Wolverine apparently is going to be the guy who's going to figure all that stuff out in this first part of the comic book. So actually, it's not just Wolverine, but all of the New Mutants. The New Mutants, for crying out loud. The X-Force. They're supposed to figure it out. Now, the Order of X, a bunch of guys who put some kind of X branding on themselves. And it's not like the regular worshippers of the mutants, where they're just like, oh, I want to just touch you and magically through osmosis develop your awesomeness, and oh, maybe like I'll throw myself at you and you can sleep with me, and maybe I can be blessed and give birth to a mutant baby, and yay, and hey, I'm just saying, if you're buying, you know what I'm saying? I could walk around with some kind of magic trick, be like, yeah, I'm a mutant. Hey, check it out. I'm saying. So anyway, but that's not the only brand of freak that's out there. There's also, Yayard. Well, we're not sure if she can be cloned because since she can't walk through the things, the gates, it seems like Krakoa in and of itself doesn't work for her. So, which means that she shouldn't be able to be cloned either. That's that's the thing that Emma and a bunch of people were wondering. Maybe she can't be cloned, in which case we've got to be really careful with her and walk on eggshells around her because she can't be recloned. You dig? So anyway, excuse me. So this other order of X, these are a bunch of freaky guys. These guys are particularly are in what do they say? They say Russia or something like that. I don't know. Wherever these knuckleheads are, um, they're a little bit different. They carve an X someplace on their body, usually on the mouth. So they carve an X on their mouth, and they're of the opinion that if we can eat a mutant, then we will gain their powers. They also keep a little canister, a little vial, like Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton used to carry a vial of each other's blood on their, in a necklace before. Yeah, that's real thing. Anyway, hey Raven, what's going on, Raven? How you doing, brother? They keep a little vial of pollen on them. Pollen is the new street drug that's made out of the basically out of the pollen from Krakoa, all the little flowers on Krakoa. These guys were actually trying to, when they steal these containers, they're just like, oh, look, here's some really cool stuff. Let's see if we can replicate it so we don't need the mutants anymore. We don't need the Krakoans anymore. We can just replicate this stuff ourselves. And they realized they can make some kind of a fairly addictive drug that winds up making you a whole lot more powerful, like twice as powerful as you ever used to be. Even if you're a regular human, you're twice as strong, twice as fast, twice as resistant, twice as energetic, twice as whatever, but there's a good chance you're going to die afterwards. So, there's that. So, anyway, these are really freaking people. Um, how long before we get to see Emma's reunion with her old Hellion team? Well, Hellions #1 is coming out next month, so let's see. Maybe it'll be then. Because her phasing stopped it from feeding. That's a possibility, Raven. That is a possibility. We don't know. We don't know. It's like, I can't eat you, so Anyway, so yeah, these knuckleheads decide to go crazy and they start going after. Freaking Quentin Quire is the best jackass on the face of the planet because he's like, these guys love us. Hey, so he does like a stage dive with these guys, and meanwhile, Jean Grey is there. And like, just look at this art, man. This is gorgeous. And she's like, no, don't do that. They want to eat us. He's like, whoa, no more consent. I rescind my consent. He's trying to get out of there really quick. Oh, that's freaking hysterical. Kid Omega, you're a jackass and I love you, man. Anyway, so there's a lot going on with these guys. Wolverine goes up and he meets up with this cartel head and he's like, I will kill you if you don't help me out. And he's all like, yeah, no, I don't think you understand. There's somebody out there, this pale girl, all right? He pulls off his glasses. He's like, look at this. She was giving us these drugs. She was grabbing us these drugs and she was going to hook us up, right? And we decided that we could cut her out. She's stealing the drugs from you guys. And maybe it's an inside job. Who knows? Maybe you got a traitor on Krakoa. But either way, she's giving us these drugs. We're taking these drugs, and this one time, instead of distributing them, we tried to break them down ourselves and cut her out of the deal. She didn't like that. When she found out, she didn't like that at all. And she came here. Now, check this out. Is she a mutant? I don't know. But she certainly has this very interesting power that I wanted to do for a long time in a face rip game, but nobody's ever the judge. I'm always the judge, so I can't do it. Anyway, she seems to have the power to control, either to possess people or control their flesh. Either way, she made the guy pull out his own lighter and hold the lighter up to his eye and cook his eyeball while it's still inside of the socket. That's what he's showing her, or showing him. That is freaking frighteningly, terrifyingly disgusting. He's just like, you could do whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, this chick is truly scary. You're going to what? Cut me up? Cut off a piece of me once a year? Whatever. This chick will make me do it myself. You know, that's freaking terrifying. So I'm loving this. Now, we go back to the scene before where he'd killed his fellow X-Men, because there's like this scene in between, right? So he goes back, and what do we see here? The Pale Lady. He sees the Pale Lady. He's getting ready to fight her and whatnot, but then she kind of phases out, and some people come and try to rescue him. And he's just like, And this is in Alaska. Sorry, I remember now. This part here is in Alaska. Now, that's freaky. Also, if we go back to the free book that's out this week, where is the free book that's out this week? Oh, hello. You're right here. Wolverine Through the Ages. There's a part in here that you have to decode. God, I hate these decoding things. Anyway, the part that you have to decode, it says something to the effect of, who is the Pale Lady, the Pale Girl? So, interesting. Now we move on to the second story. Benjamin Percy is the writer. Victor Bogdanovic is the artist, Matthew Wilson on colors, VC's Corey Petit on letters, and Tom Mueller doing the design. And this issue is called Catacombs. So this is the full-on second story up in here. Bogdanovic, again, does a freaking fantastic job in this book. And we see a whole bunch of scenes that we have seen before in the Dawn of X books, where he's running, doesn't seem to be doing anything. Magneto and Jean Grey are hanging out, talking to each other, and it's like blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, one of Wolverine's greatest nemeses shows up, Omega Red, and he can barely move. But at the same time, he's still being a straight up jerk to Wolverine, because no matter what happens, even if the guy is that close to death, which he kind of is in here, he's about to die. He still hates Wolverine. So you get just enough of his backstory to remind you the important parts of who he is, that he needs this one carbonadium inductor, I think the thing is called. And if he doesn't have it, then he has to continue to drain people of their life force using his death factor compared to Wolverine's healing factor. Now, Wolverine's healing factor is taken into a lot of consideration here, because there's a whole bunch of almost dead people showing up. And it turns out a lot of these people, these things are actually vampires. Okay, Wolverine comes to find out that there are actually vampires out here in Russia doing all sorts of creepy, freaking crazy things. Excuse me. He goes up and he talks to Omega Red, and Omega Red sends him on a couple of missions. It's funny. Wolverine's about to kill Omega Red, and Magneto stops him and says, hey, if you want to actually make yourself useful, go find out what almost killed him. And he throws him through the portal. And Wolverine, like a good little dog, decides to start looking. Now, personally, if I'm Wolverine, I'm coming back and I'm punching Magneto in the face. I'm just saying. Anyhow, but he is on the Shadow Council, so I guess he got to do what he's told to do. Either way, I'd punch the dude in the face for that. So he goes around, he starts looking around, he starts trying to sniff around, he sees all these dead bodies and whatnot. Comes back and starts talking to Omega Red. Omega Red sends him on a mission to go out and do some more things. Gives him this story about St. Julian. St. Julian, is it? Yeah, St. Julian. So he talks to him about how Julian was of noble birth. While hunting one day, he was reproached by a hard for hunting him, and a heart, whatever. Somebody gave him a fortune that, what do you call it? He would be the death. He would be the direct cause of the death of his mother and father. He decided to leave, and when he did leave, so that he wouldn't get, so he wouldn't wind up killing them. But his parents spent their entire lives trying to find him, and now when they're old men and women, they come up to him and it's just like, hey, you know what I'm saying? What's up? What do you call it? They're like sleeping in his bed or something like that. Like his wife let them in, and the dude comes home. His wife has to leave. Sees this man and woman laying in the bed, and he's thinking it's his wife and some dude. So he kills both of them. Turns out his mom and dad. Holy crap! The prophecy's fulfilled. This is one of the saints of the Catholic Church. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's the story that Omega Red gives to him, and he says, listen, there's actually more to the story. It actually turns out very beneficial. You'll find out what that is later. Or hopefully you'll be able to figure that out on your own, what that is. Now, the rest of the story is basically when his wife returned, found that he killed his parents, he was overcome with remorse and fled the castle, resolving to do a fitting penance. He was joined by his wife, and they built an inn for travelers near a wide river and a hospital for the poor. He was forgiven for his crime, and he gave help to a leper in his own bed. The leper turned out to be a messenger from God who had been sent to test him. He is the patron of hotel keepers, travelers, and boatmen. Here's an interesting part. His feast day is February 12th, which is not this Wednesday, today. Well, technically yesterday. It's last Wednesday. The previous New Comic Book Day was the feast of St. Julian. So how much cooler would it have been if, what do you call it? This issue of Wolverine would have come out last week instead of this week. I'm just saying. I'm pointing out an indiscretion probably should have been handled before. Anyway, meets up with this girl. Her name is Louise, and she's a vampire hunter. You come to find out, and she's a high-tech vampire hunter because she got this light gun. Boo! Shoots like ultraviolet light and kills vampires dead. Anyway, whole bunch of really weird stuff going on. I really dig this story. Like, it's really fun. Wolverine, it's vampires, so Wolverine just gets to indiscriminately start killing people. And every single time that one of these vampires comes close to him, he's just cutting off faces, cutting off heads, cutting off both. You know what I'm saying? Pieces of vampire flying everywhere, and it's awesome. Like robots and vampires, Wolverine's allowed to go butt wild and just start killing people, and I loved it. Loved it. So, what do you call it? They decided to go down and start going after the vampires. Now, two important things happen. The first, the second thing is really just as an explanation of Wolverine's blood, which I can't wait to get to. But we find out that Omega Red actually came here on his own because he was agreed to get a carbonadium synthesizer. So this allows him to heal on his own, and he doesn't need to start using the death factor to kill people, right? Absorbing them through his tentacles, their life force. What's interesting, though, is that the person who gives it to him also puts a detonator inside. So, hey, you get stupid with me, I blow it up internally from remote control. That thing blows up and you're back to your old self again. So you work for me and you can have to do some evil things. I don't think you have a problem with that because you were a killer whether you had to kill people to live or not, right? And Wolverine points that out too, and it's never denied. The biggest thing I wonder is where's his stupid little freaking pet Siberian tiger? Because I really miss that thing. Y'all remember that from the end of the Weapon X book? Because I remember that. When Sabretooth was the leader of that team, I'm genuinely disappointed in that man. Where's the freaking baby Sabretooth tiger? You know what? I can't. Anyway, the person who gives him this carbonadium synthesizer is Dracula. Why is this so interesting? You remember one of those unfinished storylines that Jason Aaron was writing in the Avengers comic book? This is when the Red Widow was first introduced, and she shows up and she's like, "Hey, I'm here to help out," and all these vampire bad guys are showing up, and the one vampire actually has the little baby man thing that's around him, and he's just like, "Hey," and it winds up turning into some kind of super armor that can allow him to fight the Silver Surfer. I'm actually okay with that because Man Thing is ridiculously powerful, so there's that. Anyway, we never found out what happened to Dracula. Dracula, as an old man and without any blood in him, really, he goes up and he is able to be awarded sanctuary in Russia. He's given free reign to do whatever he wants to do. So he's like, cool, I will rebuild my vampire army. Kept on waiting for him to show up. He didn't show up in the Avengers comic book. Instead, he shows up here in Russia with a huge vampire army. Holy crap. This is why you read every single comic book under the sun, because you get to see with the expansion of these storylines someplace else. This really paid off reading so many comic books for once. So yeah, I'm down with that. Oh, that's fine. Comic Boom, what's going on, brother? Yeah, it's fine. One of these days I'll make 10 things about. He's also got carbonadium armor, which is like, it's not as powerful as adamantium, but it's ridiculously powerful. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. What do you call it? So anyway, all these vampires here and Dracula's there, and it's a really bad thing. So now, the last page, by the way, Dracula looks pretty cool in this. So the last page is called Blood Work, where we actually start learning about blood. So, you know, there's technically 8 different kinds of blood, right? There's A, there's B, there's AB, and then there's type O. And each one of these has a positive and a negative. I'm type O positive. I'm the universal receiver. If any of you guys get hurt and I get hurt, I'm taking your blood. I'm saying. Type O negative is the universal donor, so anybody can take from them. How you doing? So anyway, what do you call it? The blood of Wolverine specifically, however, is very unique. It's got a healing factor, and it's a special kind of healing factor. Look, the Incredible Hulk heals like 5, maybe 10 times faster than Wolverine does. We've seen this multiple times in the comic book. Can't really dispute that, right? Lots of people have faster healing factors than Wolverine. For crying out loud, Madcap, nobody's got a healing factor like this guy. It's like, I just disintegrated you. Yeah, but I'm back. No, seriously, that fast? Yeah, that was real time. Actually, I went and took a leak first. Anyway, like, lots of people have a faster healing factor than Wolverine, but nobody's got a healing factor like Wolverine. His healing factor is in every single cell of his body. The Uncanny X-Men issue annual number 8, I think it was, or 7, whatever. The one where you first found out. That's actually a very important comic book. It's where you find out why the Kree can't evolve anymore. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of crazy freaking stuff going on. So, but in this particular book, like Wolverine has a very special healing factor. Now, we've seen before in Savage Avengers issue number 2 or 4, I think it was, that Wolverine can cut. Oh, he did it with Brother Voodoo. He cut open his heart. He grabbed his heart and he cut himself open. And he poured his blood all over and started massaging it, putting it back in the body. And it's like, okay, so now your body should, your heart should start absorbing some of the stuff through the ventricles and like putting the stuff out there and sending my blood out to your body to try and heal you. Hopefully it works. And it did. Jerry Duggan was writing that, right? Benjamin Percy's writing this. So how is that explained? How come Wolverine can't just heal everybody by pouring his blood into them? Wolverine's blood is one of the most powerful healing factors there is. It will regenerate not just, skin cells and flesh and muscle, but also bone and anything else that it needs to heal, right? It's more of in the Ultimate Universe, it's considered a survival factor. So, so Wolverine's blood is a total healer, but only while it's in his own body. Once it comes out of his body, that's what's explained in this book, and I've never seen that explained anyplace else. Once it comes out of his body, it very quickly loses its healing and its regenerative process. So you've got moments to try and heal somebody else if that's what you're going to do. But in and of itself, the blood is really only meant, and everything about him is only meant to heal him. Now, mind you, that's something that's interesting. It only said the blood in here. Wolverine's healing factor is in every cell of his body. That's been explained elsewise. So I hope that's more than just his blood. But anyway, in this particular case, with his blood, it's able to do that. Now, here's the other thing that's particularly interesting in here. With what's his name? Dracula and vampires in general. Vampires seem to have the exact opposite. So it's almost like Wolverine is the positive of his blood type, his very unique blood type, but vampires are the negative to that. See, I was just talking with some people not too long ago, discussing how it's really stupid that Wolverine has the ability to resist vampires. Like, Wolverine can't be turned into a vampire. There was the one What If comic book, like what if he did? Then he would be the Lord of the Vampires. And actually, in my opinion, the best freaking What If comic book ever made. That was an awesome comic book. That being said, Wolverine can't be turned into a vampire. He's immune to what do you call it? Even lycanthropy, it only works for a little while on him. And as far as vampirism, it simply doesn't work on him. But he's apparently able to be turned into a zombie in the Marvel Zombies thing. That doesn't make sense, especially when Tom Taylor just showed in Deceased issue number 1. Yeah, no. Slade, whose healing factor isn't anywhere near Wolverine's, he can resist. So it's weird, but that's also a different version of Wolverine. It's a different universe reality, so whatever. In this particular case, though, Wolverine has a very unique and very powerful healing factor. Now, if the vampires are the exact opposite of that, that's interesting. So you got the positive and the negative. They're the same, but positive and negative. Interesting. This genuinely changes the game, and this tells us that there's going to be some kind of a wicked, crazy freaking story coming up pretty soon, and I can't wait to see what that is. Let's take a couple of questions, and then I'm going to go and, chill out, probably read a couple comic books, maybe fall asleep. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Um, E positive or E negative? Good question, Chillmonger. They don't explain that. They just say that they're the opposites of each other. Like one is positive, one is negative. So I don't know. I don't know. It seems to me like the vampires would actually be the positive though, because if they're the universal receivers, Wolverine would be the universal donor, and that's what it seems like to me. So Wolverine would probably be the negative. Um, Interesting though, right? Interesting because they really want his blood. Like at one point, the one vampire pulled out a freaking tap and just stuck it into Wolverine's throat when he was hanging upside down and like put the little thing so it starts, at the little faucet, starts actually coming out of him. And they're all like, and drinking. I'm like, dude, this is just freaking wicked, man. What the hell are they doing here? Um, why can't the Kree evolve anymore? Okay, so the one X-Men annual comic book with that dude, he's orange and he looks like Sabretooth, but he's all orange and he's holding Wolverine by the throat. And there was the, not the Mcron crystal. What the heck was that thing called? Anyway, it was the one thing that you can have any wish that you want, but but it also stops your entire race from ever being able to evolve again. And that story was actually shown in there. And because Claremont did that, other people came along and like, ooh, let's move on with this story and do some other cool things. So the Kree aren't able to evolve anymore. That's one of the reasons why certain of the Kree, very specifically the Supreme Intelligence, was like, we need to make a nega bomb to kill like 90% of the Kree so that we could kickstart our evolution again. Well, the bomb actually wound up destroying 98% of the Kree. Eek! Not a whole lot of Kree left. Plus, there was all these other things going on, and they wound up jacking up the Kree race really bad. But it did kickstart the evolution again, so Kree are capable of evolving once again. So it's a shame the kind of things you got to do once in a while, right? Anyway, yeah, Dracula does look cool. Wait, does that now nullify Deadpool's healing factor? What would nullify his healing factor? I don't know. Um, how do you all want Omega Red or Sebastian to be found out in the most? I don't think Omega is going to get in a lot of trouble. He is who he is. Kill Shaw, lock him up with Sabretooth. The healing factor, James Howlett being given that exception is nice development, but may also apply to Dakin. Oh, good point. And Laura Kinney and technically her daughter Honey Badger. Very solid point. Dan, what's up, dude? For any idea on why Kate isn't accepted by Krakoa? The only thing that's different about Kate that I can think of that other people have pointed out to me is that Kate actually went through the whole Days of Future Past thing. So I don't know exactly how this all works out, but maybe that has something to do with the idea that the future her maybe has some link to what's going on. Like I honestly don't know. It's just speculation in that regard. Aside from that, something to do with her phasing ability. Maybe her phasing ability puts her out of sync with the teleportation, the version of teleportation that Krakoa actually employs to teleport people. Maybe it just doesn't work on her. I don't know. Maybe the island's pissed off that she's not going to marry. What's his name? Colossus. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the island realizes that Kitty just isn't falling for it. That she doesn't like the idea that the island's going to absorb her. She doesn't believe it. She's too cynical to believe that, people can actually be happy. I mean, look at how depressed she is, drinking herself to death, and whatnot. There could be a hundred different reasons why. I'm not really sure, to actually put anything specific on there. What's up, Wilfredo? How you doing, brother? Is she the sleeper? What, the sleeper must awaken? Is that Dune? Bishop can gate. Yeah, Bishop can go through the gate. Everybody can go through the gate except for Kate, which is friggin' weird. So I have gotten to the end of the comments. I don't see any more comments coming in. I guess that means I can leave now. So yeah, I am going to bounce. The Wolverine comic book, man. I'm going to leave you with these final thoughts and see if anything else happens there. Is the sleeper from Agent from Sinister's database Iron Man found out about? Oh, hello. Interesting. That could be. You know what? I now need to go back and read that. I don't think I have the comic book anymore. I think I already donated that comic book. I'm gonna have to go by and check, and if I don't, I'm gonna have to go to the comic book store and hang out, like sit down on the couch and the casting couch and just read the trade paperback because yeah, I'm not buying that book again. But wow, wow. Um, Sue Ann's like, quick comment, don't let him leave. Um, Moira doesn't want Kate phasing down to her lab. Oh, that could be a good one. That's a very good one. Possibly Chillmonger. Hey, maybe you and I should talk about that in the podcast coming up this Saturday. Actually, it's Sunday for all of you guys, but we recorded on Saturday. Anyhow, um, what else was I going to say? Oh, the Wolverine comic book. Look, I know there's a lot of people who just don't like Wolverine, but I love Wolverine. As a character, I think he's a freaking fantastic character, you know? So I was really skeptical about this comic book coming out. Plus, I really didn't like the podcast that much. That the Wolverine Long Winter podcast that Benjamin Percy wrote and produced and all that stuff. I really just didn't like it too much. So I wasn't too sure that Percy was going to be able to pull off a good book, or at least a good Wolverine comic book. In this particular case, yeah, I kind of likes it. I kind of likes it a lot. This was a really freaking fantastic comic book because I did go in with fairly low, like medium to low expectations. And now I don't know, my socks they're still on, but they were proverbially knocked off. Anyway, yeah, I liked it. So I'm really happy with this. This is going in the pull bin. You know what I'm saying? Like Marauders and X-Men and Wolverine are now going to be in my pull bin. The other ones are ones I just grab anyway because, hey, I might fall off of one of them here and there, but whatever, we'll see. But I am genuinely liking these books right now. They're really good stuff. Specifically that Wolverine book, I was surprised how good that was. Well, Fredo, will Hellfire Bay be choked with vampire bodies in the near future? Let's see. Will the vampires actually be able to invade Krakoa? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. How would Nah, you'd still have to get through those defenses, and as long as Black Tom Cassidy doesn't need to sleep and is still a part of Krakoa, I don't see that happening. Excuse me, could we get Curse of the Mutants too? Okay, relax, man. Too many storylines just coming out of nowhere, right? The Wolverine book actually gave a slight reference to those ladies, those women, those old women who came in that one. I think it was the regular X-Men book. Those old women showed up and they were like the Golden Girls and they were like making fun of each other and one of them was especially ornery and they were like disabling the mutants' powers and like talking trash to each other and like spraying them with some kind of goo that trapped them, like try to jack up Scott and whatnot. Like, dude, that was just wicked. But I think that there was a reference given to them in the Wolverine book, which is interesting. Anyway, so I am going to bounce out of here right now. Actually, the Nevada debates were up, and I am a very politically active guy. So and I heard that Elizabeth Warren actually stepped up and started disrespecting former Mayor Bloomberg, and good because that guy is the epitome of scum. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a regular guy who visited plenty of times when his stop and frisk was in order. Yes, stop and frisk comes from him. So thanks for the questions. Good night. You're welcome very much, Fleur. A precog deals with seeing the future, and Kitty has been to the future. Kitty herself has not actually been to the future, though. Her future version came to the past. So if we're talking about the horticulture, yes, that's their name. Awesome, David Mendez. Good job on that one. Yes, that old woman team was called horticulture. Anyway, yeah, unless there's a different story that I'm not remembering right now, I'm thinking of Days of Future Past, where Kitty Pryde, old Kitty Pryde, actually came to the past and inhabited her younger self's body. Anyway, yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna go try and find where the thing of the thing the debate was at, and I'm going to check that out because super hyper curious. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Thanks for showing up this late. Class dismissed.